Are you a hooper though?
Yeah, man, come on, Vanilla DeRozan, don't play with me. Get rich, not dead. Come on.
Vanilla DeRozan.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. I used to dunk in high school. Don't play with me.
I gotta ask.
I got the highest friend in this room.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's probably right.
You.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Welcome back to LeagueBiz. I'm your guy, Dennis Boateng, and we're gonna get right into it. I have a legend right here next to me, Ninth Wonder. What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Good. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a quick question to get things jumping off.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize that you had a gift?
I think that I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to go to the same elementary school my mom taught, right? So, just having, I won't necessarily say pressure, but having the influence of her and also having the influence of other teachers, which was also her coworkers, helped me out a lot, right? It was always a thing of, I was always being watched by every teacher. It's not like I'm a kid coming in school and nobody knew who I was except the one teacher that I would have. The entire school knew about my existence before I even got there, right? So for me, that kind of kept me on the straight and narrow when it came to academics, and just wanted me to excel and be in different classes and try new things and try extracurricular things, and it kind of just blossomed that way. So I would say I knew I was not necessarily different from everybody, but different from than most. Probably second, third grade, I believe.
Oh. Well, we have two other legends, in my opinion, here. Les, CEO of Slam,
yes, sir.
You've been through other paths. You've been other places. When did you realize that you had a passion for basketball or just being in the mix of the culture?
I was always just a real curious kid. I used to try to get into everything to figure out how things worked and why people were excited about different things. Basketball was one of those early ones. Why is everybody worried about making the team and this stuff? So I just started hooping. That was the way you went to a new school, that's the way you would, find that camaraderie. So I was a late bloomer hooping. Like I didn't start hooping probably until 5th, 6th grade. But I loved it and I played every day. Grew up in LA, would walk to the courts, amongst crack vials and gang violence and just find my way to the courts because that was my haven. And so, tried to make my freshman team, didn't make the cut. They offered me to be the manager, which, showed me where my skill level was at the time. And my pride wouldn't let me take it. So I still hooped, finally made my sophomore team. And early on, I just realized I'm probably not gonna make it to the NBA or take this much further, but I believe that there's a way for me to be around the game. I didn't have any idea what that was, but something told me that there's a way I'll be able to still get some of the same feelings in what I do. So there was probably no point where I knew that this is the thing, but I was just always curious and wanted to stay around the game and things that gave me that feeling.
Oh, that's good. Ian, LeagueFits. Yeah, the man behind LeagueFits, man. Where did that idea or that push for you to do something like that come from?
I gotta give props to Adam Figman. I had just started part-time at Slam, and I was just kind of always trying to find ways to annoy people into giving me more stuff to do, because, there.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, we do all the sneaker stuff. And anyway, he came up with LeagueFits and was like, here, shut up, damn, here's something for you to do. And that became my thing, and it made sense because my favorite players were always Russell Westbrook, Nick Young, Allen Iverson. Not even necessarily just for the fashion side of things, but the self-expression side. I thought that was cool. I was into style before I was into fashion, so it kind of made sense. And it was kind of a match made in heaven, I guess.
Yeah. I want to get into environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Les, you talked about growing up in LA.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have the North Carolina in common.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about that because that is what kind of molds us. We're exposed to a lot of things, right? So Les, with you talking about just having to, you know, walk through certain things, you know, crack pipes and different things. Like, how did LA and the environment that you were in, how did it mold you? What things did you experience?
LA is such a unique place, especially growing up late 80s, early 90s, because it's just always a dichotomy, right? You have Hollywood, glitz and glamour, you know, the Lake Show, like all those things, even basketball that can be very, you know, prestigious and look really glamorous. And then you have the other side, which is, you know, the parts of LA that were also, you know, big during that time, you know, gangs, drugs. And so that shapes you in a way where like you see the things you want to achieve and attain, but you never get too far ahead of yourself because you realize that other things are at play. So I feel like it kept me humble, kept me grounded, kept me understanding how all these things work together. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it shaped who I was in terms of like being able to see the other side and what things could be, but also seeing the way things are. I mean, I moved all over LA from Baldwin Hills to Beverly Hills. Like I've lived all over the city, so I get to see all walks of life. So it just kept me understanding exactly like where I fit in that kind of ecosystem.
Oh, that's good. Ninth, how was it for you growing up in North Carolina? Obviously, we talked about, knowing that you were different, but what was your environment like? How did it shape you?
I was fortunate, man. I grew up, my parents are 33 and 34 years older than me, which made them and their siblings, which made me into an old soul. Mm-hmm. That's all, I basically knew. But at the same time, North Carolina operates in a traditional type of way. First of all, we're in the Bible Belt, so religion is huge where we're from, and everything else kind of falls after that. One of the things that fall after that is basketball. We didn't get a pro basketball team until 1988 with the Charlotte Hornets, right? But still, with the Hornets being there, there's nothing more important than ACC basketball, mainly Duke and Carolina. And that tradition kind of lives with me. Like the way tradition runs in North Carolina, we get all our seasons the same time of the year. We do the same things the same time of year. That helped me approach not only life, but like look at hip hop that way too. It's very traditional, very purist type of way, which can be a positive or negative. But, growing up in a village like I did, sticking to tradition like I, grew up and watching the Duke-Carolina rivalry every year and kind of the story behind it and the history behind it. North Carolina is also a historical place. So all of that kind of made me who I am. Even when I make music, I think about all of those things at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Ian, do you relate to the legend Ninth over here with North Carolina?
For sure. I moved to North Carolina when I was like 10 from Washington, where I lived like Jamal Crawford, Nate Robinson. Like, I didn't want to move to North Carolina. I was like, I'm good on that. Yeah. And we got out there, and what he said about ACC basketball, like you go to school the first day and they're like NC State, Duke, or Chapel Hill. And like, I'm like, what? And that's like part of your identity. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, there was just like no choice but like fall in love with like basketball and then hoop, which I think is kind of like two separate entities. When I think of basketball, I think of like, the NBA, kind of the corporate side of things. But then hoop is just like, dude, playing outside in Raleigh and things like that. Like, there was no choice for that to be something that you love. Everybody loved basketball out there. So like, just a couple of years out there, and I was like, basketball has got to be part of my hoop, has got to be a part of my life for the rest of my life.
Are you a hooper though?
Yeah, man, come on, Vanilla DeRozan, don't play with me. You rich, not dead. Come on.
You just said that. Okay.
Yeah, come on. I used to dunk in high school. Don't play with me.
I gotta ask.
I got the highest spread in this room.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's probably right.
You.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ninth. I want to get into some basketball stories for you. I mean, obviously we know your love for hoop, your love for Duke. You're also a professor there. You got guys that you taught that are playing in the league now. But what was your experience or your first memory of basketball that just made you love the game that you remember?
Man, to be honest, and I know, everybody's gonna chew me up, the people that love the University of North Carolina when they see this. But my first love of basketball comes from my older brother, right? And he was an exceptional basketball player himself, and he was also a Carolina fan. And I remember being 7 years old watching the 1982 championship and him just jumping up and down when Mike hit the shot, and I'm just looking at him like he's crazy. That was kind of one of the first memories outside of him playing, me seeing him play, that I kind of saw and was like, wow. And so then MJ ended up going to the Bulls. And if you know anything about North Carolina history, like one of the channels we did not have on our cable box was WGN until he went to the Bulls, right? Wow. And so WGN Chicago was all in our homes, right? And that was a chance to watch every MJ game, every Bulls game, right? From the time he got there to the time he retired, right? To the point where it's like I lived in Chicago. I knew Chicagoland. I knew the Bozo the Clown show, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, I don't even live in Chicago, and I just noticed because of the show. And then, again, you get in, like you said, you get into the ACC basketball aspect, and when I came up in high school, and even in middle school, when the ACC tournament was on, the teacher would roll the TV in the room. Wow. Class is over that day. No. Yeah. Class is over for the day. When the ACC tournament was on, class is over for the day. Wow. Right? Yeah. And so they'll roll, we might order some pizza. It was a thing. Yeah. And we did that from I say by middle school until I graduated from high school. And then at that time, like I said, you had to choose a side. You know what I mean? And eventually, after liking teams because they had black players, right? Like UNLV,
that's a real thing. Yeah.
Michigan, you know what I mean? I started to really love the game. I was like, I like the fact that the tradition and the grit that Duke had. And that's when it started. And that led me some almost 20 years later, not understanding, me looking at this guy on TV that became one of the most legendary coaches of all time. Some people believe he's the GOAT. Me going from that in 1992 to calling him friend in 2017. Wow. And I would never have thought that would happen. But to be able to be close to him and everybody, all the other players that played at Duke, they're not coaches, Jeff Capel, Grant Hill's in town here. All of the students that I've taught, I probably have taught like 18, 19 draft picks. Wow. Right? And just to be in that type of environment and to see it, like, not only I'm a fan of it, like I'm an actual participant of not only, being in my classroom, but, just life decisions, man, that they make sometimes. But I would have never thought that when I was 15 years old. So that's kind of how it started, and that's where I am now.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Dennis Boateng from LeagueBiz in partnership with DraftKings, who can show you how to handle your sport betting biz and get in on the action right now. New customers who bet just $5 on any wager will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Well, how do I get started, you ask? Simple. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code BIZ, B-I-Z. So new customers can bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 bonus bets instantly. You can use that $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for an opportunity at an even bigger payout. Here's the cool part. You can combine multiple bets together from total points scored and other stats from your favorite player. And if you're already in the know with DraftKings, that's all good because all customers can get a no sweat same game parlay or same game parlay extra. Get your bonus bet back if your bet doesn't hit. Max rewards limits do apply. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code BIZ and bet just on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code BIZ only at DraftKings.
I want to dig a little deeper too in that, because you're saying like from being a fan of a coach, but now calling him your friend, and then also seeing all this talent. I mean, you've been around town for a long time, right. From your from the Jay-Z's, the Nas's, right. Fontes, and right. all that, right? And now you got ballers in your classroom. Right. They talking about regular, like these dudes is ballers.
No, these are NBA,
Do you ever take a step back and like, yo, this is my life. How did I get here?
All the time, man. What do you mean? Like, this is like, the music industry at large doesn't live in North Carolina. We have people that's been in music history that has come from our state. We don't have an infrastructure there for the most part, like a LA does, or New York does, or in Atlanta. We make it out and we do what we can, right? The thing that runs our state is, as far as industry is concerned, is tobacco, NASCAR, and basketball.
Yeah.
And again, I never would have thought that what you asked me about Coach K, but I started to see the parallels between the musicians I work with, like whether it be the Jay-Z's or whether it be this kid who used to bother me on MySpace, and y'all not know him as Drake.
Yeah.
All of these kids, or all of these individuals that's in hip hop now, their level of expertise and how good they want to be, like the 10,000 hours, that goes from not only music to Paolo Banchero going to the gym every day, shooting jumpers. It's the same muscle memory. It's the same thing on both sides. So I got to the point when I got into academia, while being a music producer, I was able to find a parallel. And I can teach the art of the craft more than anything else. It's a craft to this, you know what I mean? Whether we talk about the cameras is in this room, or you can find a lineage with anybody who wants to be an expert at what they do. And so now I'm dealing with these MCs, these high-level MCs, from Jay-Z to Kendrick Lamar to a Jeremy Roach or Trey Jones or his brother or whoever, or Zion, who I had in my class. And you get to catch them at the young age. You get to catch them at, Nas was 17 and 18 when he wrote Illmatic. Zion was 18 when he came to do. So you're catching them right at that age. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Les, you've been in a lot of different places, as I mentioned earlier. Was there ever a time where you just was like, man, this is kind of hard. I don't know if I'm gonna make it to where, where I want to, or what that was like. Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah, many times, man. I mean, I think anybody that's had, what they consider to themselves a certain level of success has questioned themselves at times, like, is this really gonna happen? Am I gonna make it? Yeah. One particular time, I had just got out of grad school, and I had my heart set on working at Nike. Like, that was the only mission. So I started to get some traction there. And so I had an interview set up for this brand manager role at Nike. And now it's like February, I'm graduating in May. So now I'm taking my foot off the gas on everything else. I'm like, I got Nike lined up. I don't need to do all this other stuff the students are doing, preparing portfolios and taking meetings. That was 2009. Anybody remembers in 2009, in I believe it was March, maybe it was April, Nike had a huge layoff, 5% of the workforce. So I'm calling in to Nike for the interview. The time had passed for the interview. I'm like, let me find out what's going on. And the two guys who were supposed to interview me have been laid off.
Oh, man.
So now I'm like, okay, so I don't know what I'm gonna do now.
Yeah.
So I'm scrambling, and I got another offer from a company that I won't mention, but just was not as sexy as Nike. A few weeks later, Nike called me back and said, hey, listen, we know we don't have a job for you, but we'll give you an internship. Now this time I'm an adult. I went back mid-career to grad school. I got a kid. So internship doesn't sound as attractive, but I believed in that dream so much, I was like, let me give it a shot. So I went out to Portland for the summer, worked there, worked my ass off, head down, still didn't get a job after that. Went back to New York, where I was living at the time, interning, doing freelances, and then finally, towards the end of the year, I got the opportunity to move to Portland and work for Nike. But if you think about all the way from February or March, maybe it was, when those layoffs happened, all the way to the end of the year, a lot of doubt, a lot of questioning the decisions. Because sometimes you roll the dice, right? And you make that bet, and you go all in, and it takes time for that bet to unwind. So it was definitely moments that I questioned, but the belief and the dream and just thinking that you deserve to be there is kind of what pushed me through. Yeah. And it helped me get to those milestones that were important to me.
Do you think like going through that today, how would you have handled that? Like just going through.
If I went through that today,
Yeah.
I'm much more prepared for it.
Yeah.
I'm much more prepared for it because now, even in my role, yes, I'm CEO of Slam, but we have challenges all the time.
Yeah.
And when those challenges happen, I can recall on that muscle memory of when things are not going right.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't
right.
mean this is over. It doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. It doesn't mean you don't deserve it. You gotta retool, recalibrate, lick your wounds, come back with a better strategy.
Yeah,
And so
that's good.
I'm well more prepared for it now than what I was then. Back then I was operating on faith
Yeah.
a lot. But now that faith turned into circumstance and experience that you can rely on now. So yeah, man, many hurdles.
Yeah, that's good.
Many
Ian,
hurdles.
Ian, I want to ask you too. Like, I mean, I know you dealing with LeagueFits and everything. I don't think it's an easy job. I mean, I'm sure the DMs is going crazy. Why didn't you post my fit? You know, all that, and it's the business part of it too. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, these guys care about making it on LeagueFits. Do you go crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of cool though. Like I remember, you know, when LeagueFits was still in the beginning, like, you know, it's got, you know, 900K or whatever on Instagram now, but like in the beginning, it was still like relatively small, like had like 40, 50K or whatever. Like ball players were still like sending like their pictures in, and like, I'm like, y'all, you have 5 million followers. Like, why does it matter?
Right?
But it was cool. I was like, damn, like these like ball players are like, I grew up idolizing, you know what I mean? Like basketball was my life. Like I was a gym shorts under the jeans in high school, dude. I skipped my 7th, 8th period every day.
Standard.
I'm sorry, Mr. N. Like I was always skipping, just running ones.
He's
like,
watching, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, he was my TV production teacher, so he probably thinks this is crazy. But anyway, yeah, basketball was my life. So getting like a DM from like John Wall with the fit pick, I'm like, yo, like I can't believe me, like I'm a co-sign of this, you know what I mean? And in the beginning, like I didn't know anything about fashion.
Yeah.
Like I knew like style, cause like, you know, my parents were like music people, so I was around like cool music and shit growing up, but like, yeah, no, in the beginning it was cool. So, you know, can it be annoying at times? Sure, but like, I'm so blessed to be like a co-sign of, you know, what is cool, you know what I mean? You know, and plus those DMs turn to like some of the styling stuff that I do now, which is also super fun. Like, never thought my life was gonna end up doing this, you know?
Yeah, nah, that's good. I mean, there's beauty in it. You know, you stepped into a role that you didn't even think about and took charge, and look where it's at now.
Yeah.
You know, I do want to ask you, what is some of the craziest DMs you've gotten? We got to talk about it.
Put him on the spot like that.
You don't have to say any names.
Can't do that one.
Put that filter on.
Look, you can't.
I did have someone use my an NBA player use my government name in the DMs, so he was gonna beat my ass.
Sheesh. It's serious.
Like my government name.
That's just emotions talking.
Yeah, I was like, whew.
Trying to get that fit off.
Yeah, no, facts.
Really, the big thing is usually the timing.
Get that fit off.
I get DMs during half times of games. I'm like, what y'all doing? Like,
Now that's interesting.
yeah.
That's real.
You know, but yeah, I don't know.
No, that's real.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dennis Boateng from LeagueBiz. It's good to see y'all again. Hey, LeagueBiz, this is where we talk about the business of basketball, and I'm here in partnership with DraftKings. So shout out to DraftKings for being a sponsor of our show, where we talk about the business of basketball, have amazing guests, some of the smartest individuals when it comes to the business. But today we're going to talk about DraftKings daily fantasies. So we want to go ahead and tap into that, because maybe you have an opportunity to really show your smarts when it comes to basketball, or, you know, finding out about what's going on in daily fantasy. So without wasting any time, let's just go ahead and get to it, right? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to DraftKings.com and I'm going to hit daily fantasy. And of course, I'm tapping in with the NBA. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose NBA 300K fadeaway contest. Okay, so let's see what that entails. All right. So the contest features $300,000 in total prizes and pays out the top 4,808 finishing positions. And the first place wins $100,000. The entry fee is only $15. To me, that sounds pretty good. I'm not complaining about that. So as you can see right here, first place gets you $100,000. Second place is $25,000. Third, $10,000. Fourth, $5,000 to the 4,808th place, and you win $25. So that's $10 more than what you put down in the first place. Okay, so if we do the math there, something good could happen, right? What else there? You also have, you can enter, like you have multiple entries, and it looks like 150. All right, so let me go ahead and cover that again. So first place wins $100,000. Okay, $100,000. You only have to enter with $15, and then you have multiple entries. And this is the NBA 300K fadeaway contest. So now it looks like I have my salary of $50,000. And I have 8 positions. So I have to use that $50,000, allocate it to building an actual team that could give me the best opportunity at winning first place, which is $100K from a $15 entry. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so there's some players in here that have been doing really well. There's another thing too. When you're doing this, like you actually gotta know your players, okay? You gotta know who's who, what they're doing, the points that they're putting up in order for you to have a better chance. Don't go into it blindly. Do your work, you know what I mean? And be about your sports business. Be about the basketball business, okay? All right. So, another thing too. Don't be crazy with the salary, all right? Be smart. You got $50,000 that you can use, so we gotta be smart. Who do you want to lead your team? I'm gonna go with my guy here, okay? You need a shooting guard. So I'm going to go with PG-13 or playoff P. And here's the thing too, you can also pick other players. Like you don't have to get all the top tier. When you watch basketball, you know there's some guys who are slept on. So you can do your research. You know, as you can see, there's other salary players or whatever. There's different prices and all that. So you can look and see like, okay, I like this guy, I don't like this guy. So I'm gonna go with this guy here. And just for time's sake, I'm over here just putting a squad together. I'm sure some of you guys know how to put a squad together better than I can. Really, can you though? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick the rest of my squad for this contest, that being the NBA 300K fadeaway contest, okay, where the entry is $15 and first place gets to win $100,000, and you get multiple entries too. All right, so $15, first place gets you $100,000. Second place, I believe, is $25,000, and it goes all the way down. Now, look, when you guys do this, make sure you do your research, okay? Make sure that you know a bit about basketball and the team that you're assembling. Remember, too, you have a $50,000 salary that you can use to put your team together, all right? With all that being said, I'm your guy, Dennis Boateng, host of LeagueBiz, where we talk about the business of basketball. We are here in partnership with the amazing DraftKings team. Hey, look, whenever you go to DraftKings.com, make sure that you use code BIZ. Code BIZ, that being B-I-Z, all right? Now, when you tap in with that, a lot of great things could happen for you. Now, you guys make sure that you tap in DraftKings.com, code BIZ, and I'm your guy, Dennis Boateng. Peace.
Ninth, your love for music, your love for basketball, obviously it has been documented. You're doing amazing things, and I want to ask you, what is your vision for basketball and also the intersection of music and basketball? What is your vision on that?
you know, I don't want to say what my bigger vision is because people who watch they might steal my idea.
We'll talk about it later.
Protect that IP.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I learned from being at Harvard University, man, was intellectual property is a real thing. But I do want to see more of the marriage of basketball and music, especially basketball and hip hop.
Yes.
It's not a mistake that, you know, Rucker started with 1972, I think, right? Hip hop started in 1973. This is the 50th year of hip hop. Last year was the 50th year of Rucker. Both in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
You know what I mean? Like that has a lot. There's a lot of weight there.
Yeah.
I believe. Even with LeagueFits, is, you know, again, there's a lot of style comes from our culture. It was a time when you couldn't even represent hip hop as a style in basketball, and it just so happens that Les is wearing the guy who actually broke the mold, right?
For sure. Yeah.
To the point now that you don't even have to wear the shoe that goes along with your uniform. You can wear anything. You can change at halftime, right? And that's just the hip hop kind of way, man. Just expressing ourselves the best way we possibly can that nobody else could do, you know? So just trying out my best to implement how much hip hop is important, the culture of it. I think people get the industry of hip hop and the culture of hip hop confused. That's a big confusion. And it's funny to hear Les talk about 2009 because by the time he got his first job at Nike, that was my first time visiting Portland as well.
Wow.
Nah, it's insane.
Wow.
And this is, you know, you asked me about the journey. The journey is very important in what I wanted to do and what he wanted to do because for years, when I first met him, we had always talked about doing something together. We've been in South Africa together.
Wow.
We've been in, next thing I know, I'm DJing, I'm overseas in Paris. Here he comes to a show. I'm like, what? We go eat. Then I saw him last year at All-Star. And it wasn't until this year we finally got to do something together, right? This with the Slam Duke cover. Like we finally got to do something after 14 years. So sometimes that journey, even what I want to do and what I want to see for myself, it takes a lot of patience. Nothing is just going to happen right off. It was going to happen like it's supposed to happen. And every time I saw him, like, well, we're going to do something, we got to do something. But he'd leave one entity and go to another one, run the other entity and then say to me, and at the same time, he wouldn't have been able to say to me, well, I want you to do something with the Slam Duke issue if I hadn't made my climb at Duke. You know what I mean? At the same time. So everything met at the right time for Duke to trust me to be the guest editor for the mag, for him to be over the mag. Everything just worked. You know what I mean?
Look at that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
14 years, dog.
14 years.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more magic.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you too, like about the relationship you've built with Nike. Obviously, being able to work on some basketball kicks. Let's talk about it, man. I mean, because honestly, like we're all here. We love kicks. We love basketball. We love hip hop. I mean, you've been able to literally use every single passion to create or communicate different things. Like,
man, there's so much in the shoe, and my relationship with Nike starts with one person. That person is named Jason Davis. That is my brother, man. Like, it starts there. And I met Les and a guy by the name of Eric Lautenbach. So many people I met along the way at Nike. Then that led to me doing my own girls basketball team, right? Because my daughter started to play and I wanted to have my own, I would have her on different AAU teams. And I'm like, I don't like this coach. Y'all uniforms messed up. I just wanted, I wanted like, y'all look at these uniforms. They book bags don't match. It's just crazy. And I didn't like the fact that girls were walking the gyms and the boys were everywhere they went. So I said, if I'm gonna have a team, I'm gonna make all the boys in the gym just turn and like, how do they get those shoes? You know what I mean?
oh, that's good.
And so you never know who's watching, you never know who's paying attention to you, right? And one person that had been watching my career was Kevin Durant. I had no idea. Met him at Peach Jam. right? In Augusta, Georgia, and we was friends right off the bat. And next thing you know, I'm at Nike, speaking at Nike, right? Please understand, it's like what Les was saying. A lot of times I went out to Nike, I went on my own dime. So, you know, I went out there, my first girls basketball, the Carolina Dream. I took them out there when they were in the 8th grade. But then I started to go out there to speak at different things. My man D. Tolliver, they had some things going on when he was there. And while I was there speaking one time, the KD people came to me and said, hey, KD wants to do a shoe with you, right? One of those guys is a guy now that works for the Utah Jazz by the name of Chuck Terrell. You know Chuck Terrell, right?
Yeah.
And so he's on KD's team. He's like, man, he want to do a shoe with you. I'm like, what you mean? Want to do a shoe with me? I don't understand what's going on. So he want to do a shoe. He's going to do a producer pack. You'll get to design a shoe. I'm like, what?
Stop playing with me.
Stop playing with me. And just, you know, I lost my brother during COVID. He was 56 years old. He played basketball, loved the game. You know, by whatever decisions he made in life, he didn't make the NBA like he wanted. So it was all come together the perfect time for me to be able to represent him, represent the shoe. Carolina Dream colors are black and purple. That's on the shoe. I put my kids' birthdays on the toe of the shoe. On the bottom of one shoe is the map of Suitland, Maryland, where KD is from. On the bottom of the other shoe is Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I'm from. I came in with the quote saying, our hometowns is the foundation we stand on, because that's
literally.
I put my brother's name in the tongue, both. I made the reflective tongue for the Jordan 5, and I made the bottom clear for the Jordan 5. Oh. I made the stitching around 9th and the KD for Virgil. And I just thought it out, and I asked, can I have different shoe colors? And you know, everything I ever thought about a shoe and knew about a shoe, I put into the shoe, and they would, right? And you know, I'm almost sold out of my shoes. So.
Man, that's a dream.
Nah, and so then one night I was in New York teaching. I teach at the Rock Nation School as well. And KD said, come to a game. And he hadn't wore the shoe all season. And the regular season game, he wore the shoe. I was sitting courtside. He went 21 for 25. He dropped 45 points. And after the game, I said, hey man, what those shoes? And he went to the locker room and he got them for me and he signed them. So I have a signed copy of the shoe that I designed for KD that he dropped 45 in with my brother's name on it.
That is poetic.
That's it.
Insane.
That's it.
That is poetic.
You know,
and even just being here with LeagueBiz, that's what this is all about too.
Right.
It's talking about these dreams that people have, like hearing you guys' stories and showing that it's possible. You know, all you guys built relationships. You guys were offered opportunities and you stepped up to the plate. Ian, I do want to touch back too, because I believe you're the youngest here too, right?
For sure.
I might be.
For sure.
Definitely.
Sure.
Survey says.
For sure.
Survey says.
When you said your earliest basketball memory, like favorite one, I was like, oh man, mine was Austin River.
No, that's wild. No, that's wild. But in the age of social media and everything that we live in, I mean, there's a lot going on. People trying to pay attention to trends and everything. Like, how do you stay focused, you know, with building something that you're passionate about?
I mean, like, so much like what people ask me, you know, when it comes to like, you know, the style side of basketball is like, what trends are you into? What trends are you into right now? I'm kind of good on the trends, you know what I mean? Like my blinders is kind of like being aware of the trends, but like not being obsessed with it. It's like, that's the whole, like the definition of a trend is it's something that came in. It's something that's gonna go out. It's like, you know what I mean? So I try and in, it's like, you know, especially the stuff I dress my guys in, I'm like, yo, I can't promise you're gonna go viral, but I promise you won't look at these pictures in 10 years and be like, yo, what was I doing? You know what I mean? So I think it's just like being respectful to like timelessness, you know, basketball, like things like that. I just, you know, I respect what's timeless.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I mean, we see people walk off that bus and doing that walk to the locker room, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions. I'm not gonna say no names of which players, but they out there. They out there, you know. So no, that's good. Les, being a CEO is not an easy task. I've
Mm-mm.
never been one. So,
Yet.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So stepping into that role, what were some of the things did you have doubts, like with fear or confidence? What was that self-talk that you went through stepping into something that marries the worlds that you're passionate about?
Yeah, there was definitely some nervousness and some doubt stepping into that role. I think for me, whenever I feel self-doubt or a little bit of nervousness about something, it's all to me about preparation,
Yeah.
right? So if I feel I'm going into something as prepared as I can be, then I'll be happy with the outcome,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, although I'd never been in a CEO role, you know, I did 10 years at Nike, worked for some startups, so I had, you know, a lot of the skill sets and some of the toolbox that I think was necessary to step into this role. And I always just tell myself the things that I don't know, I'm gonna learn, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look at the people who are doing that well and take what I can from them. So yeah, I think, and there's nothing wrong with a little self-doubt, to be honest. Like definitely, you know, go into things confident, but you know, sometimes that little bit of self-doubt would just help you shore up the things that are not as tight as they should be. Do a little bit of research, go get a skill that you didn't have before, bring somebody on your team who's amazing at the thing that you're not amazing at. So those things together give me the confidence that I can do the job and really succeed in my role. So yeah.
That's great. What is your vision as far as the future when it comes to the business of basketball? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I think for me, the business of basketball today doesn't match up with the culture of basketball. The culture of basketball, there's not a lot of barriers to entry, right? You can put a dope fit on, right, and be part of the culture of basketball. You can, you know, be a kid in some random state and get a good look on your basketball skills. So like the culture of basketball, but the business side sometimes just has a lot of just walls, I think, set up and just barriers and gates that not everybody can penetrate. So I think because basketball as a culture has provided so much opportunity, joy, happiness, inspiration, structure to like so many people, the business side needs to be opened up more so that those same people who live and breathe and are inspired by the game can take advantage of that inspiration and that connection to be able to live out their dreams. It's the reason that this platform exists, right?
Yeah.
The business of basketball needs to be just as attainable as the culture of basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ninth would agree that there's a parallel to hip hop the same way, right? Like hip hop was something that we could just do.
Yeah.
We didn't need permission. We didn't need anything. Maybe a few dollars for some equipment, you know, a notebook, like it's just, you know, a can of paint, like whatever your thing was. So basketball to me is very much a parallel. Like you can just pick up a ball and go play, but the business side needs to be opened up more. So I want those two things to kind of merge.
Yeah. I've seen you nodding a lot, bro. So
Yeah.
I know you have something to elaborate on that. I want to hear it.
It is definitely the culture of hip hop and the business of the music industry does not match, right? I've always felt that, and I teach this in my classes, and I ask my class this question all the time. With the beginnings of hip hop, as far from a commercial standpoint, the first commercial record we had in hip hop was a song called King 10 the Third by Fatback Band. Some people would say Rapper's Delight, but no, it was King 10 the Third by Fatback Band.
Yeah.
And when I mean commerce, I mean just to sell it. As far as commercial hit, it was Rapper's Delight, right?
Yeah.
And even with that, we have a culture that's playing exactly what R&B was doing at the time, what rock was doing at the time. We're adapting some of the things that's happening in these other genres into hip hop, right? So I've always asked the question, should we even assimilate it and sold hip hop the same way we sold other genres of music, right? And I think because of that happened in the late 70s, early 80s, we adapted a lot of these things that wasn't for us. Now it's not being controlled by us, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with basketball. It's the same exact thing. It's definitely a cultural emphasis in basketball that leans more towards the African-American population, right?
Yes.
But, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, how you look at it, It's not mainly controlled by the African American population. For whatever reason is what it is, that's what he's talking about. And a lot of these things that we can just naturally do, we have to go through hoops and jump through hoops to even make that even a business for us or a livelihood for us.
Yeah.
And the people who make the decisions say, okay, this is the thing, this is not a thing, you can do this, you can't, don't look like us for the most part, right? That's kind of the nature of it. So something, but that's just us as people. We are so creative. We'll just do something, not understanding the business that can come behind it. And we don't learn the business. We don't, for the most, well, not all the time, but we don't capitalize on our genius.
Yeah.
And we're not the decision makers of our genius either, right? And so that's kind of what Les is talking about. To be able to have the culture of hip hop and basketball and the business of it go hand in hand and coincide, right? If I can create it, that means I can own stake in it. And sometimes that doesn't happen.
And I'll just add to that, what I love though, is that I see it changing.
Yeah, that's a
and
fact.
that's what gets me really, really excited, right? There's just more people in positions of power or in decision makings, in positions to make the decision that weren't before. And then the other thing I say is that it's getting younger. And I think it's the younger that it gets, a different generation look at things totally different. So with the younger generation, I mean, Ian, running LeagueFits, that's not a mistake, right? He's gonna treat it differently than somebody who's been gatekeeping NBA fashion for 20 years, right?
Absolutely.
Ninth at Duke is gonna operate differently. Me at Slam is gonna operate differently. So the fact that more people of color in positions to make decisions, that a younger generation is now in this industry and in this game, it gives me a lot of confidence that we're headed in the right direction. So although I'm still, cautious about the things that are blocking people out, I'm super optimistic because I see it changing and we see it happening faster and faster.
Especially with the idea of diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
You're having a whole generation with these words understanding what diversity and inclusion means from age 5, right? Yeah. So what happens when a kid that's being taught these diversity and inclusion ideas at age 5, 6, 7, what happens when that person is 25, right? Yeah. That's the change that Ian is talking about.
Yeah. No, that's
Les.
Yeah.
Ian was talking about
Ian was talking about
but no, and I'll say,
Ian is the change.
Because I mean, obviously he grew up watching Austin Rivers. So
Marcus Levette, like all that. We used to be in the library, like you could just hear the song, like you could hear the beat, you'd be like, yo, who playing that Trey Jefferson?
but no, to what they're speaking to, you being at the forefront of the younger generation and being creative and everything. How do you see that? Because you're interacting with these players all the time, creating something new, seeing new things.
I mean, it's cool. Like I feel like I kind of grew up. I mean, like I'm mad jealous that you got to watch. Both of y'all got to watch Michael Jordan. Like, you know what I mean?
We did.
Like, thank goodness that documentary.
What year were you
series,
born?
97. So like just missed it.
You missed it all.
Yeah, but like I also came up like, in middle school when like Hoop Mixtape was blowing up.
Right.
So I was raised by Hoop Mixtape. Like I learned how to use YouTube because of Hoop Mixtape and Dat Piff. But dude, like I was saying, like in middle school, like you could hear like, I'm gonna go off right now. And you could be like, we'd have like 6 kids like gather around like the slow ass Wake County Public School System's computers, watching the Austin Rivers Hoop Mixtape, and that like it was such a cool, because that was like the first time like basketball was becoming like super accessible on the internet, like especially like these high school players, because I don't really remember like watching LeBron in high school on TV.
No.
The internet, like I could watch the John Wall Hoop Mixtape over and over and over and over and over again, and that's the first time where like these like high school stars like were accessible and you could watch them. Like I wasn't finding them out just when they were playing college ball or got to the NBA, and like it was so hard not to be excited about basketball, like watching like 16-year-old Akil Carr like up in Maryland. And like so anyway, I kind of feel like I was raised by the very beginning of like basketball on the internet, so it kind of made sense that now 10, 12 years later or whatever, like I'm doing basketball on the internet.
No, for sure.
It's so funny. I mean, just think about, we talked about the connection between hip hop and basketball.
Beat me to it.
And for his generation, the concept of the mixtape literally unlocked the world of basketball for a whole generation. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and that's what makes me ask you this question too. Where do you want to take it?
To the moon. Dude, like
That's your phrase too.
Yeah, it is. Like, I mean, like, I just want everybody to know basketball. Like, even look at like how worldwide like basketball is now. Like, you look at the first round of the draft, like half these dudes are from Europe and these different countries. And it's cool because like I remember, 5 years ago, like, Kristaps Porzingis is getting drafted by the Knicks, and you're like,
Everybody
who the hell
booed.
is this?
I remember everybody booing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, like,
It's
this
different
kid
now.
from France is gonna be the #1 overall pick, and we've all seen everything about him. Like, he has a slam cover where he's wearing his Cactus Jacks. Like, people are excited about him. Like, it's so cool. Like, internet has made the world, like, somewhat flat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so accessible. Like, and that's the beautiful thing about basketball. Like, compared to all the other sports, like, I didn't necessarily fall in love with like putting a ball in a hole more than like, I played football growing up, different sports. Like, I didn't necessarily love the sport more than any other sport, but like the culture around it was so cool. It was accessible. I could always walk. All I needed was a ball. I didn't even get my first pair of basketball shoes till like my senior year of high school. I bought like some Kyrie ones out of someone's trunk in Fayetteville at a gas station. But two pairs for $45. They're probably fake looking back. But like, yeah, like anyway, it's just making basketball accessible, man. Like I want, just like I was able to watch, these mixtapes, when I was in middle school at the library. Like I want kids, China or Australia or anywhere in the world, to like be able to see, basketball players are rock stars.
Yeah.
So I want them to see him from 16 and up, like,
Yep, that's real.
He's the next generation of innovators because we look at music, we look at Nas for what he can do, right? The way he put metaphors together and similes, the same thing with Jay or any Black Thought or who you can name from the early 90s, right? And that's really all we cared about because it's really all we could see. We couldn't see who Nas was dating when he was making Illmatic. Nor did we care.
Really. Yeah, didn't care.
We didn't care.
Exactly, yeah.
We didn't care. We had to either catch him in a Black Beat, I'm just for your time, Black Beat,
Word Up,
magazine or something like that to even catch a glimpse of their life, right? Same thing with basketball. The first time I've heard about Allen Iverson, I was reading a Street and Smith magazine for your time.
Yeah.
And I was reading the new high schoolers. The first column, it was Jerry Stackhouse, but then this next column, he was talking about this kid from Hampton, Virginia by the name of Allen Iverson, right? No picture. We couldn't see, we just reading about him, right? And we only cared about the hoop, the ball, right? Or just what he put, ball in the hole. What he's saying is so important is because now, because of the hoop mixtapes and everything that comes around it, the social media pages, everything, he's in love with the experience. I had a student tell me one time the difference between us going to a concert at ninth and y'all going to a concert, meaning my age, he was like, when y'all go to see Sade, y'all want to see her sing.
Yeah.
When we go see Lil Baby, we're there for the experience. It's not so much about just can he rap or can he not. We want to be a part of the whole hip hop experience, right? It's funny you say that because that is the parallel of both hip hop and sport.
And also to that, but it also leaves a space for people to come and document as well, which is very important because then we can sit down, have these conversations and be like, oh, the hoop mixtapes, or you talking about your brother, just documenting the process of your passion, how it evolved and where we are now.
Way more than ever before.
Man, fellas, this conversation's just been so amazing. I wish we could be here for 3 more hours. But
it's a master class. It's turning into a master class.
And I got to pull up to one of your classes anyway. I just want to come sit in.
Come through.
But I just want to thank you so much for your time, Les, Ian, Ninth. It's been a pleasure. I know that a lot of people are going to be inspired by this conversation. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. This has been LeagueBiz.
Thank you.
Man.